to the regularly scheduled October meeting of the Franklin Township Historic Preservation Advisory Commission. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975, this meeting has been appropriately noticed and is therefore being called to order. I will start with the roll call as always, and as we've been doing in the virtual meeting world. I'm just going to announce the attendees of tonight's meeting in no particular order. I'm the chairman, Andrew Burian, and I'm present. We have Vince Dominic, our staff liaison. Glenn McParland is here. David Weaver is here. Jessica Johnston is here. Nancy Hohenstein, our alternate, is here, who I think has a vote tonight. And Bob LaCourte, you just chimed in. Yep. So that is here. We do have a quorum. We can move forward with the formal applications. The first one that's on the agenda is 27 Union. This is for a roof replacement. That's Stephen Kish. Is anybody here for that application? You could unmute yourself and announce yourself. Okay, going once. Going twice. Okay. Moving on. We'll come back to that application if they show up. Is application 2021-29. This is for 10 Williams. This is a new roof and gutters. Is anybody for that application here?
I'm here. This is Ray Jagello.
Hi, Ray Jagello. Thank you for coming. I'm going to bring up what you've submitted, and it's going to be on screen. I know you've called in. I don't know if you can see what we're looking at, but we're looking at your certificate of appropriateness application.
Okay.
And just I'm going to flip through a couple pictures, which I don't think you can see what we're looking at, but it's pictures of your house.
Right.
And why don't you tell us what you're here for today? I mean, we can see it from your application, but why don't you explain to us the project?
Well, the project is I want to install a second roof on the first roof and also connect an existing gutter on the side porch to an existing downspout. That's about it.
And what is the existing roof? Is it asphalt shingles?
It's fiberglass.
Okay. And you're going over it with another fiberglass asphalt composite shingle roof?
Yes.
And we see that you're proposing this pewter gray architectural type shingle to go on top.
Right.
Are you doing this work yourself, or do you have a roofing contractor?
No, I have someone who would be doing it.
Okay. And they're okay putting this as a second layer over the existing roof?
Yes, because the roof that is up there is the first roof. So this would be the second.
And what kind of, you said you're just going to connect a small section of gutter to an existing downspout. Is that correct?
Right. Yes.
Is that the back porch, back side of the house?
The side porch. Right.
So we're looking at a picture now on screen that has the two gable
side of the house.
Yeah, and with over a fence, there's a little tiny porch roof. I think this is the correct elevation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as you can see, there's two downspouts coming from the roof, and then there's another downspout that's coming from this gutter. I just want to connect that gutter into the downspout on the left so I can get rid of the other one.
Well, you have an existing composition roof that you're putting a new composition roof over. I don't have any additional questions. Does anybody else on the commission have any questions or comments for this applicant? Does not seem like there is any additional comments or questions. Does anybody want to make a motion or a recommendation or continue conversation on this? Don't be shy.
I'll make a motion to approve as applied for.
I'll second that.
So there's a motion on the floor and a second prior to vote. If there's any public discussion on this application or any public has any opinion on this, please unmute yourself and come forward. Seeing as that there's no public discussion, and we do have a second, so we have a motion by Bob LaCourt, a second Dr. David Weaver. I will ask the commission, is there any votes in the negative? Please come forward with your nay. Seeing as there's no nays for this particular application, I'm going to make the assumption that we're all in the affirmative. Unless you speak up now, we're going to pass this unanimously for approval. Okay. So 10 Williams, congratulations. Vince will be able to help you with the next steps.
Okay, so I'll just email him tomorrow.
Yeah, that's usually how it will work out.
How it works.
He'll pass a certificate of appropriateness along, and that way you can complete the work.
So now, does that mean I'm getting a permit in like 2 weeks or something?
You don't need the permit for a construction. I don't.
Okay, I really didn't.
Yeah, I don't know that you can heard Vince, but what he said is that
Not at all.
you currently do not need a construction permit for a roof replacement. So
Oh, okay.
you're pretty much
Gotcha.
good to proceed. He'll get
Okay,
a copy
great.
of the certificate for you for record.
Okay. All right, so then I can basically drop off.
Yep, that's it. You're welcome to hang out, but you
All
can
right,
also
thank
leave.
you. Thank you. All right,
Have a
bye
good
now.
evening. Okay, next application on the list is 2021-32. That's 2366 Amwell Road with a window replacement. Is there somebody here for that application? Please come forward.
Yes, we're here. Hopefully you can hear us.
Hello.
We could hear you.
Okay.
And your names for the record, please.
My name is Sarah Rich, and this is my husband.
Aurelian Perozzoli.
Hi, welcome. And I will let everybody know that our council liaison, Ted Chase, has joined the meeting. That way we're keeping appropriate score here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing as I bring up your application documents?
Yes, so we just purchased this home in June, and there are a number of defective windows. Many of them have cracks or have been sealed shut, so they're actually a hazard because they cannot be opened. So we are in this phase, we're addressing the rear of the house and the basement. So this includes, there are 2 additions to the home that are not original. There is a sunroom and a kitchen that is actually not original to the home. And those are the windows that we are looking to replace as well as the basement.
Okay.
This is the sunroom. And you can see these are old but modern and cracked. They also don't open.
And I'm sorry, I was trying to get through the documents. These are the ones you're looking to replace in this phase?
This is part of it. This is the sunroom. So there's sunroom, kitchen, basement, and I'm sorry, there is one second floor window that is severely damaged that needs to be replaced.
Okay.
And this is the spec sheet for the windows. So for the sunroom, it's a combination of picture windows and casements to match the current look. And in the kitchen, it is one replacing a large double hung with a casement for continuity across the back of the house, and then applying to enlarge a small picture window above the sink with a larger double casement, again for continuity along the back of the house.
Okay. So I'm going to go back to, where was it? Here it is. So this is the front of your house.
That's the front.
And what are these existing windows that we're seeing? What kind of construction are they? Are they wood? Are they vinyl? Are they fiberglass? It's hard to tell from the photos what's existing.
So those that are in the sunroom look like they're even aluminum. Maybe they're very thin. They're old, but they're definitely not original. The kitchen, I believe, is wood frame for at least one of the windows. And the basement for the windows that are not boarded up are wood frame.
Okay.
And then for the, let's see, if you continue scrolling, you should see the back of the house. And you'll see the upstairs window that we need to replace. There's actually damage to the window framing, and a wasp nest actually took home in there this summer. Let's see.
Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. I'm trying to find
Oh, there we
the
go. So this is the back of the house. So you can see the sunroom to the left with those thin, like aluminum framed windows. On the
Yep.
right is the kitchen, where you have the larger window, which is wood framed. But then the smaller window, that's a newer window, and I believe that is what is that called?
Vinyl.
Vinyl. Yes, vinyl. And then in the middle of the second floor, you see a vinyl double hung window that has severe damage in the framing. And so that one we're looking to replace. It also has cracks and is sealed up. Yep.
So the windows that you're asking to replace at this time, is it all of them or is it just the ones we just highlighted?
All of them. So, well, it's the
Okay.
sunroom, kitchen, basement, and that one second floor window.
Gotcha.
These are the windows that are most important to us for safety.
So these guys.
Yep, plus the basement, because currently the basement cannot open. All the windows are sealed, and so it's a danger. It's a fire hazard, and we can't ventilate. We recently had flooding, and we weren't able to properly ventilate the basement, so that's why we've put the basement on this phase.
Okay. And then on this image, which windows? Is it just the sunroom again?
It's the sunroom, and actually, if you scroll down, I give pictures that have detail for each set of windows that are being replaced. So here you can see the two basement windows at the very bottom.
Yep.
Those are being replaced. That's all that's being impacted on this view.
These might not be in the same exact order that you submitted them, so I'm gonna scroll. Nothing on the front,
Nothing on the front, no.
and then on this side we got the basement windows. We've already covered these two, the kitchen and the
Yep, those two.
and then the sunroom.
No
Okay.
sunroom. And I think there might be one additional picture that has there you go. Those are the other two windows.
Yep, just the basements.
Just the basement.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I just want to be very sure we had the clear scope of what the project is.
Yeah, it's a big project, but basically every window in the house needs to be replaced because none of them latch or lock, and none of them are able to stay open. They slam shut. They're improperly balanced. But we can't afford to replace every single window at once. So this phase, we're just addressing those that are a safety issue.
Okay. So let's talk about what you're talking about replacing these windows with first. So I'm going to go back to the quote you had, but I have to be honest, when I was looking at it, it looked like a little bit like gibberish. But I think it was the PDF, not that you submitted gibberish, but the PDF looks weird on my screen.
Oh, that is odd. The PDF.
So you see what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I see. That is, yeah.
All right, there's also another PDF on here. So let me.
Yeah, we're using two different brands of window just to try to save some money. The Pro Via, these are the windows that we're going to put in the basement because they match the existing as close as we could find.
Okay. So the Pro Via are just standard basement windows. They're made out of what? Are they? They're not wood. They're going to be metal. They're going to be, what are they?
They're going to be vinyl. That's consistent with the other windows in the house.
And
All of the double hunks in the house are vinyl. They're not original windows.
Okay, so if I go back to the pictures, we're going to go back to the pictures. I do, by the way, love how you coordinated all these pictures on in a Word document. So it's much. I'm fumbling a little, but it's a lot easier than having a bunch of individual files. So I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah, and towards the bottom of this this document is an overview of the entire scope, so you can actually see descriptions in text of the windows. Here we go.
So in case we left him.
Which we're also looking to remove the aluminum awning. All of the awnings are broke and basically hanging off the house. They're not original, so we'd like to remove them to get closer to the original structure of the house.
So if I'm listening and I'm trying to pay attention as I do this, and so the rest of the windows in the house, we're going to call them color green. So these are all wood, right?
No,
these
are all vinyl.
So these are all little vinyl double hung windows?
Yeah, and they're definitely not original. They're modern, but they are somewhat old and were not installed properly. They're all safety hazards, but we just can't afford to replace them all this year.
Okay, so I want to understand this. This is a single double hung window, and then there's one next to it?
Correct. They're very narrow.
So that's odd.
Yeah. And we can't find any old pictures of this house. We've been searching everywhere, and this house just seems to not be in any of the pictures.
Okay. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that these were replaced at some point without a formal review. Because I was having a hard time understanding what these windows were, because they're just, honestly, they're quite bizarre. So okay.
They don't fit the architectural style of the house. We actually wondered if originally they were supposed to be one large single window rather than two small, but we don't know.
Andrew, if they're going through this, would it ever come to an egress problem with exiting out of bedrooms, and maybe tackle those windows first as a safety? Or
if they're replacing the window in the existing opening,
then yes,
that doesn't usually kick in.
Okay. Not for the other ones.
If they're modifying any of the openings, then yes. That's a tricky area, but it's a good point to raise for them as they consider the project.
Right. You might want to tackle a bedroom that, if you have children, if you have something, to make sure that you're able to get in and out of that window.
Which currently you can't with the way the double hungs are side by side.
Right.
The openings appear to be large enough if you were to put a full size window in there, but certainly it would be safer with a full double hung.
I honestly would rather have that. I think it would better fit the architecture of the house. But we figured we would bring that to you maybe next year when we're ready.
Well, I think it's a kind of a question for now,
okay,
as much as it is a question for later, because whatever you do, we're going to want you to do it consistently.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that any of the windows that you've presented are going to have to be, a matching issue in the future. But you should consider that whatever whatever kind of style you pick today, you're going to have to carry through.
Would it be an issue if we have picture windows along the back, but then we have grids in the front and sides?
Picture windows in the back.
Meaning no grids in the sunroom or kitchen, but then have grids on the sides and front.
All right, I'm getting to the back.
So there's the back. So the bottom back would be, as we're presenting it, would be no grids. The top window that you have circled, we are looking to do a half grid as it is currently. It's currently a half grid, so we would want to match that. And in the future, if we were able to do larger, actually do one big window instead of the two smaller side by side, we'd probably do half grid or full grid.
So I mean, I think it's kind of a without question. You know, in the future, these windows, you're gonna have to replace them with a full size window and not have these little half windows. I mean, just as Glenn pointed out, for safety, as well as the proper aesthetic for the house.
That's actually great news. We were worried that we would be stuck with these tiny windows forever.
No, I'll let the others chime in as well, but I think they're very inappropriate for this house, and as Glenn pointed out, could be a safety concern. You know, because windows sizes are dictated by code to allow enough room for a firefighter to be able to come through that window on a ladder and be able to do a proper rescue if necessary. So just something to consider.
Right.
I mean, they'll come with an axe and chop it out anyway, so you're probably okay. Those firemen love to swing their axes.
No, if we can, like I said, we hate the side-by-side skinny windows. We would much rather have something. When we look at other examples of this type of architecture, it's usually a large half or full grid window, which is what we would rather do.
So if you had come to this meeting and said we had wood windows that we were replacing with vinyl, it would be a hold the phone moment. We really can't talk much further.
Yeah.
But you have a house here which is in the historic district, has had all its windows basically stripped out and replaced. And now the conversation is what you're going to replace them with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from a high level, I don't think anything that you're proposing here is an issue. I think we just need to get into the details of what those windows are. And please, anybody else on the commission, please chime in.
Are all the windows vinyl that you're putting in the house, the upstairs ones?
Yes. So the upstairs windows currently are vinyl, and we're replacing them with vinyl.
So have you looked at wood windows with a vinyl exterior clad? For, you know, they're admittedly a little bit more expensive, but you're going to get a much longer life out of them than a typical vinyl window.
So it's a wood window with like a vinyl
exterior.
Or fiberglass cladding would be even more durable over the years.
Yeah, because I know a lot of the times the argument that people make is, oh, I want vinyl because I don't want maintenance. You know, we've kind of accepted that that's a thing, but vinyl windows have a host of performance issues. No matter how good of a window you buy, you know, vinyl sashes have been known to sag. They discolor. There's a whole bunch of issues. So I was just wondering what you've been looking at and if you've looked at any alternatives.
We haven't looked at alternative as far as materials go. We were looking at different brands, also looking at like the brand and the model to reduce the chances of sagging. Also looking at, you know, appropriate sizing to try to reduce sagging. But no, we haven't looked at wood. Okay. And largely because we were trying to replace with what's currently there. We wanted to rock the boat as little as possible.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand and appreciate that position. And especially after you said you were afraid we would be, you know, you got to keep the weird windows on the second floor. Oops. I jumped to the wrong document. We'll go back here. I just want to jump to the sunroom really quick.
Mm-hmm.
that as well, you're proposing to do, you said a picture window and double hung windows in that area?
Picture windows and casements. So that way we have a continuous view, but we're able to open the casement windows for air ventilation.
Okay. So does anybody else have any comments or thoughts or commentary?
What is the siding? Is that aluminum? Just curious.
Yeah, so there's a combination because what you're seeing here on the back, the kitchen and the sunroom were both additions made to the house at some point. And so there's a combination. So the majority of the house is aluminum, but the siding on the sunroom is vinyl. We don't know what's under it. The siding is not in good condition, and eventually we'd like to at least wash and paint it. But we are curious about what's under there and in what condition it is.
Right.
Also, because of the additions, there's a good chance it's not continuous, whatever it is.
Okay. There's a lot here to digest. I guess the only thing I'm mildly concerned about is the vinyl windows.
Me too. I hate to say it. It's such a
I-
poor choice. And, from just looking at the specs, they barely meet code for energy performance as it is. So you're just spending all this money and, I'm sorry to say, but they're not going to last as long as a quality window. I'm just saying it.
Yeah, and the energy performance on a wood window is typically a little bit better because you get a little bit better sealing. The gaskets don't break down. I mean, that would be my only real comment is that I would encourage you to consider, looking at a slightly better quality window, whether it's, like we said, some kind of clad wood window or whatnot. In all honesty, every window has been replaced here. So you have a real opportunity to give the house some of its identity back. So you have an opportunity while you're doing this. I guess that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Yeah, I'm double checking because the spec sheet you have on the sunrise windows is all gibberish. So I'm just double checking that I'm right that it is. You see, frame options, polyfoam wrap, not screen. I believe they are vinyl though. Yeah, I think it would be worth us going back to this company and seeing if they do have any vendors that provide some sort of wood framing.
I think that would be my recommendation for you is just to do just a little bit more homework. I think that, and I don't think anybody here is going to disagree with me. I think what you're doing is fine, and I think what you're proposing is great, and I think it's only going to improve your home. But if you came back with a higher quality window, that may function better or look better, I think it would be a slam dunk, to be honest. And I guess one of the reasons why I'm struggling and I apologize because in this Zoom world of meetings, I typically get to talk more to my cohorts here because they don't want to unmute their mics, so I get to be the bad guy. But I think at the end of the day, if there was a better product information sheet, like you have a lot of great information on what you're proposing to do, but even if this wasn't gibberish, because some kind of like elevation, what's called an elevation drawing of the windows that you want to install, and a listing of what the materials are. And that's honestly something we would ask of any applicant that was proposing this kind of project is clear product data on what you're intending. For example, if it was an Anderson 400 series window, with, 6 over one light, and that may be in this document here, but
Mhm.
that'd be helpful. I mean, I don't want to delay you, and I understand that you want to get moving with something, but I think if you just do a little bit of homework on what your product you want to use, I think the project's a slam dunk.
Okay. Yeah, we definitely, our goal is to try to return some of the original features to the house and get rid of some of the stuff that's been added on that's not appropriate.
So if that's what you'd like to do and that's what you're comfortable with, what we'll do is we're not gonna vote on this tonight. We'll let you go do a little bit of homework and you can come back and if you have questions in the process, since you have an application, you're gonna come right back onto the next agenda first in line. But if you have any questions before then, if you want to submit them through Vince, that would be fine as well. And
Okay,
we'll try and
great.
help.
Great, thank you.
Does anybody else have any thoughts or opinions or a different opinion on what we just talked about?
I was just thinking of how constrained they are by their budget. Maybe they need to propose fewer windows at this time and do them better. Particularly the front of the house windows, after all, are the most important ones for the character.
Yeah, we definitely do have budget constraints. The windows that we chose are the windows that have cracks or have been sealed shut, and so we're not able to open them at all, and so they provide a safety issue. So that's the reason for the scope, is that we really don't feel comfortable with a basement that can't be ventilated properly, or sun windows on the porch that have cracks.
I understand.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can figure out a way to be slightly more satisfactory in terms of the appearance and lasting of the windows while still staying within your budget. But I'm not
Yeah.
the person to make technical comments.
Yeah, no, Ted, I agree. And that's why we're not saying go get wood custom windows here. I think that I think even a replacement style window that's not just pure vinyl, maybe a fiberglass replacement window would be appropriate. And you could get those at a somewhat affordable price because at that point you're replacing sashes and stops and stuff. So that's what I think. Just a little bit more homework, and I think the project is a slam
Andrew,
dunk.
let me ask you, it's a safety concern. We're coming up on winter.
Mhm.
Windows are real difficult to get. Can we agree kind of on the look of this and maybe break off if they come back within a week to a subcommittee or some sort to let them move forward? Because I don't see what they're proposing on any of these, it being a big deal with the look or whatever. We're just talking, right? I mean,
I would go one step further and say I'm not even worried about the basement windows. Replace them with whatever you want.
right. But it's probably a contractor doing it, I'm assuming, and they want to do the whole thing at once and not break it up. But is there some way, if they come back and that they can go into some subcommittee or something, that they don't have to wait another month or two? I know custom windows are out in different areas, 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, what we could do is if this body agrees by vote, we could form a subcommittee to just review revised product data. There's no harm in doing that, right, Vince? That's within protocol.
You've done
We can't hear you.
That would be greatly appreciated if we could try to get them in before winter.
Yeah, that would be fine, Andrew.
So if I mean, Glenn, I mean, if you're proposing that's fine with me. We could take a vote as a committee if we want to accept that as the course of action. I think that has to be done by vote. And basically what the vote would be is a conditional approval of this application pending the review of product data by a subcommittee. I think that's how we would do it. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, and I'm just, if we're going to be in week 3, ninth inning, then they should come back and see us, I guess, but for the next month. But if they get us something within the week, or
Well, I mean, that's particularly apropos because we don't have a November meeting scheduled.
all right, gotcha.
And we
So
don't have
yes,
a
then this is a
November
good
meeting.
idea.
Yeah, so
Okay.
no, this is not bad because in November we have election day and then we have Thanksgiving and we have all sorts of stuff, a council meeting on a Tuesday. So Vince and I were actually talking about this before the meeting. So Glenn, is that the motion that you want to make, is to conditionally approve the project pending the review of product data submitted to a subcommittee?
That is the motion I'd like to make.
Seeing as that, would you like to chair that subcommittee?
I think that you'd be best for that, but I'll be part of that committee. Not a problem.
And then we would need one other volunteer. Who wants to do it, Jessica?
Yeah, sure. Be happy to.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor and amended by a nomination of the subcommittee. Is there a second to this course of action?
I'll second it.
I bet you will, David. You don't have to do anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, given the motion on the floor, I'd like to open up for any public comment or discussion on this application. Seeing no public coming forward, it's the same as the first one. Anyone have a nay vote for this course of action on this application? Seeing no nays come forward, I'm going to assume it's a unanimous agreement to move forward with a conditional approval of the application pending the review of product information submitted to a subcommittee. I can't imagine us doing this in a more expeditious way. So that's what we'll do. And the subcommittee will report back on findings at the next regularly scheduled meeting. But as Glenn said, don't drag your feet. If you drag your feet, we're going to have to wait till the next meeting.
No. Well, we're going to get new materials underway by the end of this week.
Okay. So that's it. Thank you. Well,
All right.
You can hang out if you want, or you can go call your window guy.
Yeah, we'll probably call our window guy. Thank you very much, everyone. We really appreciate it.
Yep. I got to write that one down and take some notes. Okay. Well, that's a first. Let's moving on. All right. 2021-22 Korean Baptist Church, 46 Livingston Avenue. Is that applicant here?
If you can hear me, this is Dan Reichard.
Dan Reichard, and you are representing?
Yeah, I'm the contractor for the church.
Okay, that's right. Yep, you were here a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Let's pull up this. So this is a continuation of the last time you were here.
That's correct.
And we're going to go to your drawings. Okay, so the C of A has not changed, I assume. Church drawings, and we're going to rotate this so it's legible. So why don't you give us a recap and I'll fill in the blanks of our last meeting. So what are we looking at today?
Well, first of all, to get an easy one out of the way, on the former rectory building, we were discussing a new fire door that was being put on the back and placement in replacement of a window that's there now for fire escape. We had it marked on the plan as optional, but of course, that means we might put it in one day. So we've now removed that from the plan, so that's no longer under an application here. So that building is going to remain the same on the exterior.
Okay, so this, which I'm flipping through, you can see our visuals, right?
Yep.
All right, so this is no longer on the table, so we have a lot of pictures that we don't need to look at.
Correct. We submitted them anyway, but
Yep.
that's
Perfect.
correct. Yep. So that's off the table. Jumping back to the church and the portico, you folks had a lot of questions regarding detail last time, and according to my notes, what we did is we had the architect basically fill in that detail, some of which was you had questions on the gable vent, and we've now marked it that we are going to try and realign the roof line so that we keep the gable vent. You had some questions on leaders and gutters, to specify materials and things, and so we have that on there now. You had questions regarding how the posts were going to be finished, whether or not there were plinth blocks on the top and bottom, and what the material was. So we call that out, and there's a detail there showing how we're going to finish the posts. And then, of course, the big question was the handrails, and we show a detail there on the handrails wrapping around the post. And the architect indicates that all the clearances meet code. So there shouldn't be an issue there on clearances and things. So I think that, from an aesthetic standpoint, we've addressed in detail your questions from the last time. He's also called out the roof material, which we talked about last time. And so I think we've got the detail on there that you asked for.
Okay, I assume when you say that he's detailed the railing, this is what you're talking about?
Let me try and take a
Because
closer look.
I didn't see any kind of section or elevation. All I
Yeah.
see is this narrowing.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay.
I got to plug in here. I'm losing power.
This is the event for remain. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to you, Jess. You have any questions?
Well, I remember last time that we're supposed to use the existing railing, so now you're going to replace the railing?
No. What we're going.
Did he drop off, or is that my audio?
No, I don't think he plugged in his laptop fast enough.
Sorry, I didn't press the button.
Oh, there you are.
No, we're actually going to add. So we're going to fabricate a new wraparound there. So we're not removing or replacing or anything. We're just sort of adding. If that answers your question.
So, you're just adding the extensions at the top. Is that what you're saying? These extensions that make the wraparound?
Yeah, for some reason I can hardly hear you, Andrew, but yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Is it possible to look at them again in elevation pictures? Do you still have the front elevation picture, Andrew?
I will see what I have. Church picture. Church picture.
Ah,
So yes, I can. So it looks like based on the, between this and the plan, it looks like they're gonna modify the guardrail portion to die into the new column. And then modify or fabricate the piece between the column. And then modify the other side to die into the column, right? That's the assumption I'm making.
Yeah, and then wrap the handrail around the column.
Okay.
Are they
And it
steel
and-
or aluminum? Like what is the type of metal? Iron?
it's whatever's existing there now, which is, I believe, is a form of wrought iron. I don't think it's aluminum. It's heavier than that.
Okay.
This is Myung from the church. Yes, the railing is iron. It's not aluminum. Did that get across?
Yeah, yes, thank you. Good. Okay.
So essentially, it's the existing railing, with that extra handrail piece added on.
Can you hear
I
me?
guess the question and the comment that I can sense coming is that you didn't really show us how that's gonna work in drawing form. Other than to say that the handrail is gonna go around the post.
Hey, honey?
So if I go back to the drawing,
Hang on.
we see that here on plan.
I'm just taking a look. Hold on.
I mean, I guess it's probably okay, but based on this elevation, you have a little bit of a wonky condition happening here at that base of that column. I'm just not certain how that's gonna resolve itself.
I'm just looking if we got a better view here.
Hey, Andrew?
Yeah, Vince.
Yeah, I had a call in. I was having some type of an issue. Hey, typically for this type of application, we'd have an actual section of what's being done. And I think to be fair to every other applicant, we need to have some type of drawing in a section, because I think we kind of understand what's being done, but there's no picture that I can see that shows actually what's being done.
Not to put Jess on the spot, but I'm going to. This was one of our sticking points in the last conversation. I'm not sure that there's enough detail to satisfy your question. So, I mean, you raised a point initially, so I just want to know if you're satisfied with the response here. I'm trying to scratch my head to get past it and move forward, but I'm not understanding what the condition is at the bottom of this column and how that railing intersects. But I guess at the end of the day, I'm not sure if it's super important, if it's just matching what's there. So
I get it. I get the so here's what it comes down to. There's a plausibility issue here. We're not seeing how this is functionally possible to do and modify the railing. It's not a rubber band. This is wrought iron, and you need to get wrought iron pieces that are exactly the same and weld them together there and paint them or powder coat them or something. So it seems like a lot of work and a lot of effort. So I think once you get into it and you try to make it work and connect back together to these new columns, what I think is going to happen is you're going to say, oh crap, this is really hard to do. Let's just go and get new railings. And then you're going to be right back in front of this board with, we have to get new railings now, because you can't even draw it, let alone, I don't think you could really build it with it snaking around that way. We're not seeing how you can functionally build it it's not conveying that amount of detail on the drawing set.
So,
Right, so you're not convinced that our metal fabricator can fabricate a new handrail? Is that what you're saying?
Is
Well,
that
you're not showing us how it could be done.
Uh,
We need to
I
see
mean,
it.
if I may, gentlemen,
isn't,
if
I
you
mean,
could give me
I don't know, you want me to bring the metal guy in to testify? I don't know.
the
You need to
drawing
give us
says
a
the
drawing.
existing railing is staying. So if the existing railing's staying, how are you modifying it in the field?
Essentially the same way they installed it in the first place. I mean, I'm a professional contractor. Be honest with you, we do these railings all the time. You hire a metal railing guy who comes in and does the fabrication. Most of the time on site, I can assure you that he's capable of cutting this railing. He does it all the time. It's his profession, and he's very capable of welding a new one into place. These railings, as you see them on the church right now, they didn't drop in that way. Somebody made those, and they made them custom to that application. That those aren't, you didn't buy those at Home Depot. Those were all fabricated. So the same guy that's fabricated those railings is going to be hired to fabricate this new handrail. And we can't, when we're dropping those posts in, we're going to have to obviously cut the rail. I can tell you that the technology is there to cut railing. And this is really not for our metal fabricator, this is not a big deal. Now, if you want me to bring him in to testify to that fact that he can actually cut the rail and re-weld it for you.
I guess the issue is that you're not showing us how
I-
it's going to intersect or not intersect with the column. So, yes.
If I may, gentlemen, this is Myung from the church again, and I can show you where it is showing how we're going to do it and how it's different from the last drawing that we submitted, how the railing is wrapping around or coming around the post that we're proposing. Perhaps you're not looking at the drawing closely enough, or perhaps
which detail on the drawing would you like us to call our attention to?
Yes, there's a big marking there, existing landing. So in the old photos, there was no drawing of railing specified. So what we did was there's a big horizontal bar looking like thing running, and it slants towards or right around the post. And that's the intention of the railing coming around the post there, and it protrudes a little bit into the existing landing on coming up from the
So I'm sorry, what should we be looking at specifically? You said it's shown in here.
yeah, so we're looking at the top right side of the drawing where it shows the front porch or front existing landing, where there on the right side there are 3 steps or 4 steps up, and on the left side is the handicap railing.
Yeah. So it's the detail labeled partial first floor plan.
Correct.
Yes, whichever is on the screen right now.
So I think,
You see that bar that's coming
we,
around?
yep,
Uh,
oh, that's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
big.
that's it. And
Yep.
so that bar that's running, it shows that it angles towards the post as you approach. You're coming up from
Right.
the handicap rail. As you approach, that bar is slopes. I mean, it slopes and it goes around the
No,
post.
I understand. I think we all understand this jog right here,
Right, there
right?
you go.
We get that. Nancy, what are you holding up? Can you unmute? Um, we can't hear you.
And I don't know whether the previous drawing is there.
So I think that the concern that's being raised is not that specifically. I'm going to go to the other part of the drawing and hopefully try and unwrap this.
I don't know if you can blow that up.
The way it looks on my screen does not always look the same as it looks on your screen, because you have the ability to zoom and unzoom too.
Okay.
So that's one of the awkward things. I think oh, you got a magnifying glass. That's why you're holding up, Nancy. So I think one of the main concern is what happens here, right? Is this a new post that breaks the railing at the column? Or does the railing tie into the side of the post?
That's
I-
pretty much a freestanding railing. I mean, it's supporting itself. So we're just gonna tie it right into the new post.
So there's going to be some kind of magic that connects this top rail to the new wood post. And there's gonna be
Yeah,
some
we're
kind of
gonna
magic
weld
that connects,
a new bracket on there and attach it to the post.
and that's gonna attach to the base wrap here. That's
Andrew, can you hear me, Andrew?
Yeah, there's no additional support necessary.
You can hear me, Andrew?
yeah, we got you, Vince.
We're going round and round on this. I mean, we've done this for years, and we're all in the same position. We think we may understand what they think they're telling us, but the drawing doesn't show what we need to see. And we can't approve something, or at least you can do what you want, but I don't believe you can approve something if you're not sure that the drawing's showing what's being done. And I think we're spinning our wheels
Yeah,
here.
no.
They need to
I agree.
redo the drawing.
Well, let me ask the group this question. I think the sticking point is this railing detail, right? Are the other items in the application satisfactory? I mean, is
Not
this
the
a case?
column, not the column. There's no detail on the column.
Not the column. So I'm going to just scroll down to see the column detail.
I mean, it has some trim pieces, but we don't know what the placement on the landing or dimensions or how it's being anchored. It's not buildable off of these drawings. So the problem lies in, Vince, these drawings sometimes, when there's an architect involved and there's architectural drawings presented, it raises the bar. They need to be buildable drawings and representative of what will be constructed at the end of the day. And that's just not what we're seeing here. There's a lack of detail. There's a lack of dimensions. And, it just doesn't convey what can be built.
Okay.
I hear what you're saying. We hear what they're saying and they describe and assure us that they'll do a good job. That's fine, but we're approving the drawings.
So your issue is not aesthetics, it's buildability. I just want to be clear so we can address it.
Well, we don't know the aesthetics because we don't know what you're building. I think that's the point, right? If you show us what you're building and how you're building it, then we know what the aesthetic is. You
No,
know, I'm sitting here.
Aesthetics I can deal with. My question is, we've now raised tonight the question of, can this actually be built? Is it feasible to be built? So in addressing the issue of feasibility and buildability, what you want me to
Okay.
show how it's
So-
going to be built?
So I'm a licensed architect of 15 years, right? If I was to put together a document set for any building, and there's question on buildability or constructability or aesthetics, they all go hand in hand, right? So I have to prove that it's buildable and aesthetically pleasing within the requirements of making it buildable. And you know, we go through this kind of stuff all the time, and unfortunately on you know, sometimes on smaller projects, when the details are you know, the thing to concentrate on, you want to make sure that that detail is buildable. So I mean, I understand the standpoint that things happen in the field, but you know what, you're also at the benefit of shop drawings that we're not going to see. So to be able to prove that this is constructible with the columns being dimensioned, with the information on hand, and I'm gonna step back and say, you know, the comment that we just heard is correct. I mean, if this was a drawing that was being submitted, there'd be a dimension string here. Components would be dimensioned. We would know what, you know, this is. And we're not seeing that. We would know how this is anchored into the concrete, for example. And then you can't anchor a wrought iron railing to what is this? Is this composite? It's pressure treated. All right. If you go straight
Well,
into the pressure
it's
treated,
backed up behind it by a solid 6x6. So we're not relying on the AZAC to hold the railing, if that's your question.
so I think that's what the solution here is if this was a buildable detail with the proper dimensional information, we wouldn't be going in circles.
Okay. Well, I apologize because we were on a different track. I now understand that you not only want to see the aesthetics and the historic value and the appearance, but you actually want to see the actual detailed construction of the screws and the bolts and the procedures that are going to be made to construct it. I was under the impression that was up to the building department, but I'm wrong. So I understand that they go hand in hand, and we'll just have to get you that detail.
So the point is that we're not the building department, but you need to prove that it's constructible to meet the standard that you're representing. So
Okay.
prove that it can be built the way you're describing. And to be honest, you know, I was on your side in the beginning of this, trying to talk through it, but you know, you've painted me back into a corner, you know, with your attitude regarding this. But we need a constructible detail that shows you what you're drawing, what you intend to construct.
Right. Well, my question is, I want to be able to come back and give you what you need. So I'm trying to define, you know, just exactly what you need. You said a moment ago that you want us to prove that we can build this. To what level? Where's that bar? I mean, to what level do you want us to go to prove to you that we can build this?
Dimensions, location of brackets, calling out what the materials are.
Okay.
It's that straightforward.
Jumping back to the metal fabricator, what support do you want me to give you to convince you that our metal fabricator can make this?
We don't need support that your fabricator can make this. We need you to show us a detailed drawing that tells the fabricator how to make this.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Okay. So we got to give you, basically, you're looking for more construction detail than we've presented here.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, before we go on this, is there any other portion of this application that has questions remaining, or is it really that they have to fine tune the detailing on this railing? Is there anything that stands out to anybody? Because I'd like to make sure we send them with full and appropriate information.
Yeah, there was a comment on the post.
Well, I think that that's related, right? We're talking about, and that's what I started doodling on the Zoom here in my best red line with a mouse. You know, dimension the column post, show what it is, show the location, show how what the bracket's going to look like, and how the railing's going to intersect. But I from my standpoint, I think that, you know, the post and the railing detail is the last thing that's hanging out there. I think everything else is pretty much satisfactory. I mean, does everybody else agree with that? I see nods in the affirmative. Any additional question, comment from the group or from the applicant?
No, I'm good.
No, I think you've explained it. We got to give you more construction detail.
All right, excellent. So we'll see you at the next meeting.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along.
Andrew,
Application.
sir, I apologize for jumping in again.
Oh, no problem.
I was briefly in earlier for the previous meeting, and you mentioned something about November not having a scheduled meeting due to other events happening simultaneously or in the packed into the month.
Right.
Did I hear that correctly?
That is correct. You could reach out to Vince and talk to him in more detail about it. Just because we don't have one on the schedule doesn't mean one won't happen.
Mhm.
But it depends on the applicant load and what emergent matters happen. Just because it would be an off night and an off our regular schedule, that's why it's a complicated month.
Okay, we also want to, you know, the winter coming, we want to put that into consideration. So I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, the
Understood.
key is get me a drawing as soon as you can,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll see if we can get a meeting, because unfortunately, the meeting schedule time is extremely limited. We'll do our best.
Yes.
We always have. We've had special meetings to accommodate, but I have to wait and see and then talk to the chair when we get an application, you know, and there's half of the month the township is closed. You know, I'm exaggerating, but we have the League of Municipalities where we're not there for 3 or 4 days. We have Thanksgiving. So, and then we have all the other meetings. So we do our best, but until you get me the information and I see what else we have, we can't make a decision whether we can find a night where we can get 5 members and there aren't any other meetings. So
I
get me the
understand.
information as soon as possible, then we'll do the best we can.
Yes, and I would just want to close with a comment that, you know, we're trying to make a good faith effort here. And last meeting, a member mentioned to us that our siding or new replacement siding didn't match in colors, and we in meantime we went ahead and painted that. I don't know whether there was an int. So we're trying to meet up with all the requests and demands. We're not just trying to make things difficult.
No, we appreciate that. And that's great that you match the siding color. That goes a long way for making, you know, the church look even more beautiful. And you know, I would not characterize them as requests and demands. It's meeting the requirements of the ordinance for historic preservation in Franklin Township. And, you know, it's a published ordinance. So it's town rules and regulations.
Yes.
But thank you again for your patience, and, you know, we look forward to the next round.
Thank you very much for your time.
Great. Okay, next application, 2021 -28 34 Laurel. This is a new garage and shed. Is anybody here for that application?
Yes, I am. Hi, this is Anita Khan. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Anita, welcome.
Thank you.
It's my understanding from Glenn that you and his wife are friends, so Glenn is going to recuse himself.
Yes, I also have James Pearson joining me. He's from the Fortunata Architecture, just in case there are details discussed which I may not be aware of from a building and construction standpoint.
Right, and that was correct, right, Glenn? Just to get your voice on the record.
That's correct.
Great. So it's good that Bob showed up, because then we have a quorum. All right, I don't think I was able to rotate all of yours.
Oh, that's great. That's the front picture.
Okay. So are you a new homeowner here?
Yes, I just bought.
So we can't give you a hard time about that fence, right? That was the last owner.
Yes, that was the last owner.
Okay. So everybody's gonna recognize that fence. All right. So as I'm trying to get all these things orientated the right way. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the project and what you're planning on doing?
Yeah, sure. So there's an existing shed in the back of the house right now in the corner. So I don't know if you're familiar, my plot is kind of a triangle in shape. And on the left side, right there where my car is parked, behind that fence is a shed, which is pretty old. So I want to take that out and build myself a garage so I can park my car through that driveway into the garage. And my plan would be to build the garage exactly how the house looks in the front of the house. So it kind of matches the house, the structure from an architecture standpoint. And a little bit of extension in the back where I'll have like a storage room, a crafts room where I'll keep my supply and stuff like that. So that is my plan.
Now, did you submit a site plan? I didn't notice one.
What's a site plan? I'm sorry.
So
It's there in the drawing corner, lower left.
Yeah, there is.
Was it?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I think James is on the line too.
34 Laurel plans. Oh, there it is.
So all the way on the left, yes, the bottom.
Okay. So you're actually going to require a variance for this as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So Vince, is this a recommendation to zoning?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
This actually, because of the shape of the plot, there's no other place where the garage can go just because of the triangle shape of the plot. So that's why the variance request.
Okay. And it's a side yard setback as well. So the variance is for side and rear yard.
That's
it looks like. Okay. Zoom back out. All right, why don't you talk us through the materials? So first off, demolish the shed all you want. I don't think that's a important factor for anybody that's being a contributing structure. But we can talk more detail about the shed, the garage here. What, I know that all the information is here, but why don't you talk us through what the materials are, the siding and such?
Yeah, I have James here with me. James, can you hear? Hi, James.
If he's talking, we can't hear him.
James, are you in mute?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we
Hi.
can hear you, James.
Sorry about that. My laptop speakers aren't working.
Okay.
So,
Can you talk us through the materials and I assume you're constructing this is going to be stick built. This is not like an ordered building.
no, it's going to be the 8-inch CMU blocking with stick framing.
Okay. So why don't you talk to us about the
siding is going to be
exteriors?
4-inch vinyl to match the existing. Rather than being green, we were going to propose to go with a white siding. And then if you look at the front picture of the house, at the top of the peak, there's the shingle siding. We're proposing to do, to take that same concept and throw it onto the front of the garage. So the main 4-inch vinyl siding will be white, and then the top of the peaks will be the shingle siding to match that brown. And then the roofing shingles are going to be the typical asphalt shingles to match the existing. And then the garage door and 2 other doors will also be brown to match the front door as well as the peaks.
Okay. So do you have any samples representative of what the materials are going to be? So this is a little bit more than building a garden shed, right? Because it's a permanent structure with a permanent foundation. So it's going to be held to a slightly higher standard than if it was just a shed. I didn't see any like photos and materials or anything like that. That's why I'm just double checking, make sure I didn't miss something.
I myself, I don't have any photos of materials. Anita, do you have anything?
Actually, yeah, Dan gave me these sample of what the siding would look like, and the gray and the white. I don't know how much detail we need on the siding.
So why aren't you matching the color of the house?
I mean, I could. I just thought it would be too green, you know, with both the structures. So I was going with the highlights of the brown, but and even the garage door looked like the front door, but have the sidings white so that it doesn't look too green, all of it together. But I mean, I'm open to that. If we have to match the, the color of the house and the color of the garage, happy to do that. That's not an issue.
I think it was just a question, just try to get your thoughts. I think white's going to make it stand out far more than if it was a similar color or earth tone.
Yeah, it's kind of an avocado green, I understand, from the previous owners.
So we're talking about vinyl siding. We're talking about what is the rake board and the associated trim for the soffits and eaves.
So the corner board and the window trim, we have it spec'd out as AZEK trim. The soffit is going to be a vinyl beadboard. I'm not too sure of the brands, but
Okay. And you're showing gutters on here. Are they half rounds, K sections, downspouts, leaders? What are we looking at?
That I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I know when I was talking to Dan about it, we were designing everything to match with the existing. So all of the wall-mounted light fixtures on the exterior of the building, the gutters, the downspouts, that's all gonna match the existing.
But when you say existing, you mean the house, not the existing shed.
Yes, I mean the existing
Yeah,
house.
the house.
Okay. And let's talk doors and windows. What are you thinking for doors and windows on the garage?
So for the 4 windows that we have designed in the garage, they're Anderson 400 series. So they
Okay.
have the wood framing with the vinyl exterior. The doors we haven't gotten to. We just kind of spec them out as for Anita to choose them. So we don't really have a brand of door.
So we're gonna need that information to know what's being installed. So right off the bat, I can say that it'll be conditional approval or not, depending on how the committee talks about what that door is going to be.
I mean, I'm open to recommendation. I know I saw the neighbor's garage behind on Church Street. I could do similar door just to match the, neighborhood.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you what it needs to be. You have to propose something.
Okay. I mean, James, we can just propose a regular garage door, the one we see here on the picture. But I have to show you the material, you mean?
Yeah, we're going to have to know what that is. And what is this? So over the garage door, you have this, what is this, a hood element? Is that a hood just to protect, I guess it's here too.
Yeah, that's just a small little roof extension just to kind of protect the garage door.
And you're insulating this building, so is it going to have heating and cooling?
No.
Can you talk a little bit about why the bracket feature above the garage door, how would that work if there's really no overhang or extension of the roof? And will it be just
So if you look, are you talking about the bracket in the top of the roof pitch?
That's right.
So if you look on the side elevation, there is a 1 foot overhang. We have it with a dashed line, and then there's a dimension string showing that it's 1 foot. But the roof bracket, it's note 6.3, which is just a 4x4 decorative exterior roof bracket to be finished with a composite trim board to match, with either white to match with the existing wrapped beams on the front of the porch.
Why not just extend that more? So you only have what, 5 inches space or gap between the bracket and the building?
So the bracket will be evenly spaced between that 1 foot. So I understand what you're saying. We're only going to have a few inches on each side.
Yeah, you won't be able to
I
apply.
guess that's just more of a design aspect with the way we did it.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of it, but in reality, it doesn't, it looks a little forced, and you're,
Mhm.
why not combine extending that, making it a real bracket, and then doing away with the little eyebrow over the door?
Right. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I agree with
I
that,
hear what you're
Jess.
saying.
Because then it won't feel like a forced detail. It'll feel more thought through, like it was intended as that to act the way the bracket does.
Yeah. So I just have one other comment. There's something about the roof pitch of this that does not sit well against the roof pitches of
Yeah.
the home.
Yeah, I
So with
agree
the
with
roof
that.
pitches that we have, it's currently a 7 on 12. I understand that doesn't match the front of the house with the really steep pitch,
Mhm.
but with the zoning requirements, we're only allowed to go up.
Oops, sorry.
We're only allowed to go up 15 feet.
That's a
What was that? I'm
different,
sorry.
that's
I
a
picked,
different house.
yeah, I picked the wrong one. I'm getting back there.
So may I suggest that you match the roof pitch of the front portico and make it more
Okay.
shallow?
Yep.
Right there, okay.
And that's all for me.
Thank you.
So, Jess, are these items that you'd like to see a resubmittal on as part of a condition of approval, or?
If it goes on record, I don't think that we need, I wouldn't propose to see it again. If it's on record that these couple of areas can be met, just tweaks, really.
So just summarize your concerns then.
I would recommend to match the front portico pitch, making it slightly shallower. I would recommend to do away with the garage eyebrow and extend the roof and bracket out slightly to serve a purpose, right? So, and that's it. I think the window selections are great. We really shouldn't be commenting on colors, but I do like the white and the brown. So,
I just was asking why white. I wasn't giving commentary.
I'm all in on white, but that's not for us to decide.
I guess the only thing that I think we would want to know is what the final selection of the garage door is, right? So we don't know what the garage door is going to look like. And maybe you could tell us what the side man doors are. But I don't think we've talked about those yet.
So as of right now, we don't have a brand selected, other than it being a 36 inch by 80-inch door. So that's something that we'll have to figure out.
So I mean, I would be comfortable with conditionally approving this with a resubmittal showing the doors. I mean, just so we could see what they are. Or should we, or are we comfortable? We can't really just approve it without seeing it because that would be inconsistent. So I would say that we conditionally approve the application with the submittal of the doors and the changes requested just for verification since they have to come back for the doors anyway. So, you know, saying that they could get moving, but we need to see a couple final details. Does that seem appropriate?
Can that be brought up in subcommittee? I know I'm recused, but just the same way as the other one.
And Andrew, would I suggest that if we cannot meet before they get scheduled before the zoning board, that I would submit that to you and you can appoint whatever subcommittee you want to look at it. I mean, if we have a meeting before the zoning board that they're scheduled, they just come to the meeting real quick, you'll look at it. But I wouldn't want to delay them at the zoning board. We can't meet until December, so I think we can treat it the same way.
I agree with that, Vince. I don't want to make a habit of forming subcommittees when with things, but yeah, if it's a matter of getting them on the next zoning board, I think that there's enough here approved where we could do this by subcommittee as well. Glenn had to recuse himself, so I can't just make it the same subcommittee meeting for a half hour one night. Thanks, Glenn. But I think that that's appropriate.
Yeah, and I think, Andrew, the reason why we're doing this at this meeting is the possibility of us not meeting in November. Typically, we would just carry it, and that's the way it is. But to be fair to the board and to the applicant, I don't think you want them to wait 2 months, and I don't think you want to wait 2 months, because then you'll have to hear the whole application again, because it won't be fresh with you. I think it's consistent what you've done in the past, and at the same time being fair to you and the applicant.
So I'll buy that for $1. So I guess the action here would be to conditionally approve with the idea that the doors, garage door, man doors, and the revisions requested will be reflected in a resubmission to be carried by a subcommittee if those documents are received prior to the next scheduled zoning meeting that they're on the agenda for. That I think that's what we're doing, right?
So the door, the side doors, the garage door, and just the redrawing of the two things which we talked about, right? Okay.
I think that that's appropriate. So I guess that's the motion, right? To conditionally approve pending the review of the requested doors and revisions by a subcommittee. If there is no November meeting, otherwise you'll have to come back to a full meeting in December. So I think that's the motion. So I guess does anybody want to move that?
I will.
Okay, so Jessica will move that. How about
I'll
a
second it.
second? Okay. With the motion on the floor, is there any public coming forward to discuss this application? Seeing no public coming forward, I do have one question before I take the final vote. Can you just satisfy my curiosity? What's the treatment going to be on the foundation wall? Is it cement barging on the exterior?
That I can't tell you off the top of my head. My boss would know more about that than I do.
I think so, James. I think that's what Dan said, but
Okay, so make sure that that's indicated for the next package, because I'd like to know what the foundation wall is. So including that as an amendment to the previous motion, we're going to do it the same way we've been doing it. Is anybody nay for this application and this course of action? Seeing nobody has come forward with a nay, and a reminder that Glenn has recused himself from this application, and carries forward in that way. So Vince, let me know when they hit the zoning agenda. That way we make sure we can address this beforehand. Obviously they have to make a resubmission before they could get on an agenda, but just keep me posted.
Andrew, you're going to choose a committee?
Oh, well, it's not you, Glenn.
I'm holding you to it, so you know it's not me.
I guess I'll do it. Anybody else want to volunteer?
I can.
Who was that?
It's David Weaver.
All right, David, thank you. And Jess was about to open her mouth. I saw it. I saw it coming.
Go ahead. You got to volunteer. You're good.
Well, I need 3.
Then I will help. I'm happy to help.
All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and pick a night to review both of these at the same time, and Glenn can just suck it up and listen that night.
I'll be happy to.
All right. Excellent. So that the motion carries. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
So going back to the agenda, we did skip over 27 Union. I just want to make sure that applicant hasn't showed up. 27 Union. Okay. All right, our final formal application for the evening, 2021-31, 1008 Canal Road. This is a renovation in addition to the Honeyman House. Who do we have for the application?
Yeah, hi there, Ed Potasnik, 1008 Canal Road, the owner, and also Chris Piquel, architect as well. If it pleases the chair, can I give a little bit of background about the house and how I came to own it and kind of where we are now?
Please, and in fairness, include the conversation about the barn.
Sure. Historic, like history of?
The renovations that you've already done. Just a high level overview for the new members.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad to be back, and thank you guys for your previous help. Acquired the property in 2016. It's going on about 5 years. Most folks are pretty familiar with the story of John Honeyman, probably the most famous Franklinite, a spy of Washington, double agent, gave the intel before the Battle of Trenton, which was critical to winning the war. And I got the house in 2016. It'd been both the house and the barn severely neglected through the years. Particularly, I think we enclosed some photos, as the chair mentioned, with the barn. So, basically was very, very rotted and, required, I would say, a lot of love, which also equals money. We included a before and after picture of the barn itself. I don't know if you want to scroll through that, but matches the historic approved plans, and that's where it's completed. That's where I hail from, over the wonderful world of Zoom. Although I'd love to see you all in person, behind one of those 2 windows in the upper left. And those of you who know me understand how committed I am to historic preservation, from being on my license plates through buying this house and making sure it makes it onto future generations. It's the reason, I bought the house. If you're worried about Ida, a little update on that. We're right on the canal here. The water came up about 3 inches up the elevation of the foundation in the back. So it didn't make it around the barn itself, but it got pretty darn close. Pretty much everything was removed in preparation between the time when I guess I would call it rising tides of Ida, overnight from about 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. from the lower level to the upper level where the apartment is. So it's quite a challenge. And, I'll just turn it over to Chris to talk a little bit about the main house, which is, one of the things I had talked about when I came before the commission a number of years ago, was to renovate the barn to have a clean place to live during the renovation of the main house, which is the big project. And we're really happy to find Chris through a mutual friend. And, he has experience out of Flemington working in historic structures with historic preservation, and has been a real asset. Unlike my previous diagrams and drawings, which I did myself to try to save money, I've really got a great professional on the team, And with that, I turn it over to Chris.
Hi, Chris. Welcome. I think you're muted.
Hi. Got me now?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Chris Piquel. I've been practicing on my own since '98, and we do a lot of work with historic buildings, historic barns, with stone houses, all over central New Jersey. This house is in kind of sad shape. It's been pretty neglected. Wasn't a lot of money in Griggstown for a long time, and it's suffered a number of bad remodelings and additions and renovations. And so we want to turn it into a house that actually works, because if historic buildings are just kind of preserved in amber and can't be lived in, then they just deteriorate further. So it's kind of an ambitious project, but we're trying to preserve the core of the house. We're trying to, as we typically do, we kind of put the 20th century rooms with technology into the wings. So we're proposing to remove two kind of mid 20th century small additions and start over. But then we do like to put toilets and kitchens and technology heavy rooms around the old house and not within the old fabric. The exterior design is driven by a need to, it's a 1.5 story house. So we're trying to get 2 stories of function to 1.5 stories of space. So hence above the garage, we have 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. And then we have some 1-story shed additions off to the south for the kitchen, which is kind of a typical way people used to add on to these 1.5 story houses. The house that I described in the memo was built in 2 different sections, both of which are quite old. I don't know if when John Honeyman lived there, what the house actually looked like during the Revolution. It may have just been the skinny house with the large fireplace in the center, and not the piece that was added on to the south, but that may have been added on very early on as well. So I don't think there's any documents on when the house was actually originally built.
Is there, just while you're talking, is there an existing condition drawing? All I see is proposed.
Looking at that now, I should have given it to you. But if you look at the floor plan on the bottom, the first floor, there's a bunch of dashed lines on the 2 front rooms, and those are the 2 oldest rooms. But the house is a square. It's a 32-foot square, starting with all those dashed lines and going to the back of the house. The kitchen to the far left of the drawing is also 32 feet deep. So the original house was a square. That's the original house. That's square, correct. And there's currently an addition where we're showing the kitchen island and kitchen sink and whatnot. There's a small addition there. There's a small addition out the back where we're showing a bit of a porch. There's nothing to the north, which is up the river, up the canal, where the garage is now. We also have the site plan, so we're also proposing moving the driveway. I mean, it's good to start with the exterior stuff. The driveway comes in now through some thick shrubs. Right, you almost hit the corner of the house with your car when you pull in. So we would like to pull the driveway further away from the house by moving it north up to the other property line, which will pull it beyond that intersecting road. I forget the name of the intersecting road that has all the traffic. So we propose keeping the cars further away from the historic house by moving the driveway to the north, actually the northeast. The house also sits, if you can, the flood lines indicate that this house is above the 500-year flood, whatever that means after Ida. But it sits higher than the barn on the land. It sits also very close to the road. We need a zoning variance because the house is completely in front of the front yard setback. One of the things we've done with the garage is in order to make the old house the primary and the garage secondary is we pushed the garage back by about 6 feet, which makes the house read as the most important thing, and the garage is secondary, and it also keeps the garage away from the road in terms of zoning setbacks. And if we look at the exterior, so the house now is white clapboards. A lot of them look like there's maybe 3 different sets of clapboards on there. A lot of them look like they're 20th century cedar clapboards that someone put on maybe 40 years ago. There are some pretty old boards, but we're not really sure if those are from the 1700s. I doubt that they've lasted that long. They have been replaced 80 years ago, 100 years ago.
So can I ask a quick question for clarity?
Sure.
So this is an existing addition to the house?
That's replacing an existing addition. There's an existing addition there now, which has a gable roof.
And then is this the new?
That's the break between new and old, correct?
Okay, so everything on this side of the line is new. And everything, and this is also new, replacing an existing addition.
Correct.
Okay. So really the frontage of the house is being more than doubled. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say, correct.
Okay.
We tried to break down the garage by putting a shed off to the north end of the garage so that the roof line isn't excessively long.
Okay.
Yeah, the house, as I said, it's 32 feet by 32 feet by 14, 15 feet high to the plate, 1.5 stories high.
Do you have a building section? Or I guess this graphic on the elevation is supposed to be representative.
Yes, that's yeah. We have some sections in the office, but that's indicating some roof lines and some clearances for the dormers.
Okay.
So the windows have almost all been replaced. So the sizes of the openings are in the original locations, but the sizes indicate that these would have been the windows we're showing are on the historic piece are what we think would have been there originally. Everything now, as I said, we'd like to keep the old siding on the front side on River Road, and then we'd use hardy plank, smooth hardy plank on the rest of the building, which is not historic.
So are you saying that the main body has wood clapboards?
It has wooden clapboards in various states of dilapidation. We think we have enough that we could collage some back onto that front. You know, that they're nice. They're 7 inches exposure. They have a nice texture to them. So we like.
So you're gonna salvage what you can from the demolitions to repair the front main body of what we'll call the remaining historic portion of the house.
Correct. And that will also help in the legibility. You will be able to see a difference between the hardy plank and those old boards. Hopefully not too much of a difference, but you will be able to read that that is the old historic part of the building. Everything is painted white now. We're just going to propose the same thing, painting everything white. There's a stone foundation, which is parged. The new foundations would be concrete block and parged. The house currently has the roof. If you drive by, the roof is scalloped and failing. The rafters are, some of them are quite old, but they're shattered and broken and sistered, and the sisters are now failing. So we need to replace the roof structure. It's beyond repair at this point. The roofing now is asphalt shingle, and we would propose just an architectural slate gray asphalt shingle, GAF or one of the major manufacturers. For the windows, we typically use Marvin Elevate these days, which looks very historic, is a fiberglass exterior, gets painted white, lasts a very, very long time. Good quality window, not outrageously expensive.
So you're saying words like typically use? We need to know exactly what you're specifying.
That's what's on the drawing is the Marvin Elevate. I'm saying my office typically uses those. We're proposing that for this project.
Okay, understood. Just want to make sure you're clear what's being proposed as
Yeah, that's listed on the manufacturer's listed on the drawing. And the hardy panel smooth is listed on the drawing. And white, yeah, we're calling everything white on the drawing as well. The chimneys are likewise failing. They're cracked, and the one is kind of scary that it hasn't fallen over yet. So the chimneys would need to be rebuilt. They are both red brick. We will find a red brick that looks similar to what's there now.
I keep hearing a lot of we're going to have to rebuild and we're going to have to replace, but I'm not seeing a lot of detail to support that scope of the work. So I'm just raising that flag for you early.
Yeah, well, these are, this is a pretty big project. We still have to go for Canal Commission review and zoning review. So we haven't done construction drawings at this point. We would like to get an approval on the drawings at this level. And if we need to come back with more detail, we will do that. But no, we haven't done construction drawings yet. So this is oftentimes what we submit for this kind of review. We'll get you the information you need, but we haven't selected a brick yet. That's a fun thing to pick out, but we have not done that yet. The major materials, we certainly know what we're going to be using.
Okay.
The gutters now are white K gutters, so we would be using. We're intending to match what's on the house. The house is in pretty bad shape, so the exterior.
So if you're replacing the roof and all the gutters anyway, why wouldn't you propose like half rounds for a more historically accurate appearance?
We could use half rounds.
It's a question. I'm kind of throwing back questions at you because
yeah,
you're saying that we're replacing everything, but there's K gutters, so we're going to go back with K gutters. But is that what's appropriate for the main body of the house?
The half rounds would look nice. I think the half rounds might be a more appropriate answer for this house. So that's fine. We were trying to stick close with what's there, but what's there is not necessarily historic, certainly in terms of the gutters.
Yeah, I think it's almost a similar comment. I don't know if you were listening previously with the window application. I mean, you have opportunities to correct some of the inaccuracies as you do this project.
Well, correct. So the windows, the light patterns we've studied the window patterns. So these are this is what we think complements the history of the house the best. The 6/6 windows on the additions, and we're showing these 8/12s on the historic windows, which is probably pretty close to what they would have been. That's certainly the proportions of the openings that are there now. Okay. So we are trying to put the right windows in the right places and with the correct style for the history of the house. Informed as much by our other work and our studying of other buildings as this building itself. The porch roof there's no porch on the front of the house. It would be nice to have some shelter at the front door. A lot of these houses we've looked through the books and they had these shed roofs that would come out over a porch. So that's something we found historic precedent for as well.
So the front porch, and I'm going to doodle over this again, that being this appendage here.
Correct.
So that's this here.
Yes, that's correct.
And you're proposing extending the existing roof line down with no break. So that fundamentally you're altering the character of that existing elevation.
One could say that we found The house seems to have proportions of a lot of Dutch buildings that are around central New Jersey, and this is something that we found on a number of other Dutch buildings. Sometimes there's a very slight break in the slope so that it would be very less, 1/2 of a pitch less. If that's
Do you have any imagery of precedents to show that so we can better understand what you're calling detail to?
I do, but I don't have them with me here. So.
Okay. I keep interrupting with questions. I wish my colleagues would too.
That's fine.
I think you're doing
Waiting for a
fine. Ingrid.
break. I have a couple of things.
Sure.
So I noticed you've removed the shutters. Is there a particular reason for that?
Well, they're not the original shutters. They certainly haven't survived from the 1700s. I think they're in terrible condition, and so we're not showing them. Oftentimes, if we will just put shutters back on the front of the building and not on the sides. They add up to a lot of money, and people don't use them. So the top photograph here, the two shutters are shown on a 1940s edition that we would be replacing with a kitchen shed edition. You can also see in that top photo that the windows are completely disparate sizes. The ones on the old house have all been replaced. In fact, the big window in the top there, the sash are installed sideways or something really screwy like that, sitting on top of one another.
That's called character.
Well, it's letting in wasps and squirrels. It's pretty.
So these shutters are actually on pintles, aren't they? And they actually have dogs, so they're operable shutters if you want them to be.
I have no objection to putting shutters back on the front, especially on the historic section here.
Yeah, so I see pintles. So
Yeah,
it's arguable when they were replaced. Obviously, they're not 1700s, but
correct.
I mean they are appropriately paneled shutters on the ground floor and not Toll Brothers louvered plastic.
That's correct.
There's something to be said about the integrity.
Yeah. I think there are likely colonial revival replacements, the 20s to the 40s or something, but that's fine. They're at the end of their life. We're not going to be reusing those, but we could put properly mounted shutters on the front, the 3 pair there.
You could evaluate those. It's sometimes it's a little easier to put some Abatron on there than to order new ones.
I understand. I'll take a look at them if we can replace them. It's the top rail that often rots.
And the main original square portion of the home has a rubble foundation.
Yes.
The drawings are at schematic design level, and it doesn't show how the porch integrates with that rubble foundation. And it gets lost. So I just, I think at the end of the day, the drawings aren't sufficient enough to approve. Am I saying that right? Andrew, but
no, you're right on, and you're being generous calling him schematic. I would call him concept plus.
Okay. Yeah. So I think there's a miss there with the new porch and how the rubble. Yeah, that's quite a nice feature of the old home, the rubble.
Oops, I'm sorry, I flipped to the wrong one.
Foundation. So you're covering.
I would add to that even the roof of the old house. I mean, you said it's scalped right now, the asphalt, right? I almost want to see a little detail rather than an architectural style throughout the whole thing to give it. I mean, I'm an artist to opine on that, I guess, but it's just an idea. If there are scalloped roofing coatings that can be used too. To,
No, that's I'm sorry, the wrong word. The rafters are the rafters themselves are scalloped.
okay.
The straight roofing members are now curved. Nearly
I thought you were
all
talking
of
about
them.
the shingle up high, but okay.
No, it's that if you the whole roof is kind of a roller coaster of scallops and curves, not in a.
So I'd like to, I mean, before we get to nitpicking a lot of details, I really want to talk about the massing of this edition. And I'm looking at it and I'm appreciative of what you attempted to do, with stepping it back and trying to force the scale off the main body of the house, but and even stepping the second floor roof down. But I mean, you can't get around that the addition starts to look like it's wagging the tail of the historic house. And I'm just wondering if there's a better way to establish that massing in a way that maintains the functionality that you're looking for. And I'm just throwing out ideas or questions. I'm not telling you what to do, but why not L shape it so that the exposure to the street is less? And what other tricks could have been employed to break down the sheer volume of the addition?
And you're kind of saying what I was saying there. Like, I don't want to lose that, the ability to see that older portion of the house there with the, like you're saying, the dimension of this and how it's
and I understand the challenge here. I really do, because you're trying to give provenance to and you're trying to give provenance to the historic
correct
piece, the centerpiece. But by stepping the roofs and doing such things, you're somewhat achieving that. But then the whole garage addition is longer than the existing house, and then you want to have this porch roof, which breaks down the remaining exposed elevation to the main scenic byway corridor that this sits along. So you're losing a window, you're losing some of the rhythm. I want to get to some of your thoughts on these alterations that kind of become a little more impactful than I think that they're shown here in a 2D drawing.
Oh, I think in 3D it's going to look less imposing because the garage is back a good 6 feet or so. I do hear you. We did try to study an L shape and things like that. And our challenge was we didn't want to abandon the rooms in the old house. Many times we have clients who wind up building a new house behind the old house and just kind of never using those old rooms. And so we really tried to keep the old house as a lived-in thing and not just as a museum. That kind of dictates some of the decisions we made about the massing. The porch roof we went back and forth on. We could eliminate the porch entirely. It's nice to have some shelter on the door. No one will probably ever use that door, however, because of the way the house sits along the road, and the road is not a thing that anyone walks down.
I mean, I would even think that a simple shed or simple pent roof would be far more appropriate for a Dutch colonial house than bringing that shed all the way down. And I understand the precedent that you've tried to explain, but more likely than not, you would have a simple shed there as your shelter.
We've seen both. I'm not objecting to the simple shed, and if that's more pleasing to everyone, we can certainly consider that. As I said, the overall massing we studied quite a bit. We did a number of different variations, and this seemed to fit the program needs and the ability to reuse the house the best.
Maybe Chris, you can explain a little bit, because I had some trouble too at looking at the front elevation. Sure. I think you call it south. How the main house, to what I look at as the left, has the shed roof, which is replacing the the existing addition from the 60s that's there, and then how you step back that small portion,
right,
and sort of add back the other one to, because I think, Chairman, what you're saying is, it's a long house, right? And, the original house is being like sort of washed away by all these additions. The idea, I think, Chris, as you explained it to me, was to kind of make it look like lots of additions, like lots of historic houses we've seen that
Right.
were
It becomes rambly. Yeah. So the garage is set back sufficient that on the east elevation, on the upper left corner, we're retaining one of the big windows into the old front room. So it actually sets back about 8 feet and then comes forward a little bit at the garage. So I think in 3 dimensions, the garage is going to feel like it's back, and the perspective view looking from the southeast, you're going to see the roof line of the old house, and the garage set back a bit from it. And as I said, we're keeping windows on the corner of the old house into that main room on the first floor and into the second floor as well.
So this piece here sits proud of this piece and this piece. Is that correct?
By a 6 inches or so, yeah.
So I think something that may help is that if you're making this element sit proud, why wouldn't there be something different with this piece of roof, which in architecture, and I know I'm preaching to a choir here because I understand you know what you're doing, but I mean, in a lot of historic preservation design, there's always the idea of creating that hyphen, right? That break. And I think that by extending that roof, you've expressed it here, but you've lost it in the roof, and I think that that's contributing to this feeling like a much bigger mass.
We originally had that roof line broken there and the eave lined up with the garage, so we could go back to that. That would work. The hyphen would drop down in ridge line a little bit below the garage roof.
Because when I'm just looking at the massing of it, and I just can't wrap my head around the proportion of this versus against the proportion of this. It's like it's close, but not close enough where it's a 2-to-1 or it's like a 1 and an eighth to 1. It's just.
Well, the garage is 24 feet plus an 8-foot hyphen, and the old house is 32 feet. Those are the numbers.
So just I don't speak architects, so can you explain what you just said? Are you saying get rid of that leftmost dormered roof window?
No, I think what he's suggesting is that we and we originally had this in the office, and we didn't show it to you, but we could lower the roof line around that dormer window closest to the old house, drop that roof by 1.5 feet or so, and there'd be a break in the garage roof. The 2 bedrooms under the garage would have a slightly different ridge line.
I see.
Remain where it is, and the roof line over the laundry and bathroom would drop down a little bit.
And that could even free you up to raise this up a little bit more to get more headroom up there if you needed it on this second floor.
Right.
Because if you have this break that I'm talking about and separates the mast architecturally, I think that might be a little more successful. Now, again, this is just my opinion and my thoughts on it. I also rely on my colleagues here, but
we sketched that in the office and we rejected it for some reason. We can certainly come back to it. It wasn't it wasn't a terrible idea that we came up with. So yeah, that could work.
I will note that there's a few things that I wish were included in this particular package, which is a series of building sections so we could understand in section as well as plan and elevation. I think that we would need more details on the site plan to understand how this building is engaging the site, especially with the revised driveway that you're proposing, and how how that's going to intersect with, Bunker Hill Road and I know you showed the site plan. I think we need to understand.
I don't have a survey of Bunker Hill Road, and that's we could try to figure that out, but it's not on his survey. And the land
I think even an overlay on a Google Earth image,
Google Earth or
something to give us a little more context, if you know what I mean.
I'm not following at all. I don't know what any of this means. Can you explain it again? You're proposing to alter how you enter the site, right? So you're changing how you enter and how you get to the garage. I think for me, I think that this is a little lacking on information on how you're doing that. So I think we need to understand this whole thing a little bit more, because you're now altering the characteristic of the entry sequence to the house and such.
Well, clearly, the road wasn't paved. It may not even have been where it was, and there wasn't a driveway where it currently is. So I don't.
Understood.
I understand we're changing things, and
but are you removing any trees? Is there any vegetation that's being removed? Are you going to be proposing any vegetation? So there's site planning that enters into this that we're not seeing. I guess
I think, Andrew, that's remaining consistent with what we have always done. So.
No, it is. We often request that kind of information. So, and I think that another thing that I would be interested in is since you're doing so much work here at the roof, I think that we need to understand what these soffits and eaves are going to be doing on the proposed versus what's left of the historic. I think that with a project like this, and I applaud Ed for taking this on, because I know it's a little bit of a bear, but with something like this, the devil's in the details, and we need to truly understand that the details are gonna mesh or clash the addition with the proposed the proposed work with the historic.
Our intention is to match all the details that we find. There's no rake projection at all in the building. It's just one board proud, and the eaves. I would have to get up on a ladder and take a closer look at those.
But I think when we discussed it, Chris, I had the same question, and it's really all in kind to match.
Yeah, that's the intention.
So you have to show that to us. I mean, I understand that, but we need to understand it. I think that's just the short of it.
Andrew, I'm going to bring this up before you start closing things here.
Archaeology
being consistent, I and it would come to a vote, but I'd want at least a phase 1 archaeological survey on something that's old with changing so much and building over the land, and that's pretty much shovel test and maybe a GPR.
What are those?
That's just so that's basically having somebody dig a couple holes and see if they find any historic artifacts, and given the age of the house, and it would be limited to the areas of disturbance, right?
Correct.
So you're
changing
building
the driveway and where, yeah.
Right. So you're building a relatively large addition, before the bulldozers come out and dig foundations, just to get an idea if there's any potential for artifacts or cisterns or anything that may be more interesting than you ever thought existed directly beneath the surface.
I did have it sounded when I bought it for tanks. So
it's a similar process, but it's more, it has more precision for smaller artifacts.
Do you have an idea what that costs?
I couldn't tell you.
The gentleman, is it Glenn? Do you have an idea?
I couldn't tell you neither. I don't think it, I couldn't. I think the architect there, maybe he's more familiar too.
Plus, we're not defining the scope and the area of it. I think that's best left up to your architect to help you work through what would be appropriate.
I have some contacts. I don't know the cost.
And it's consistent with what we've done in the past. I mean, especially of this age, and
we made you do it, Glenn, didn't we?
Yeah, well, I keep doing it.
Any other questions? Anything else you want to see drawing wise, Jess? I know that you're a little bit like me on wanting detail.
If I could just say something, and you've probably discussed this already, because you're in competition with the Red Sox Yankees game tonight.
Yeah, you are.
Watching that. But is this showing the roof over the old part of the house coming down further over the front door?
That was a proposal to create a porch that we found some historic precedent for. It's
Well,
subject to discussion though.
is that covering an existing one of those little eyelash windows? Because look,
There's two windows there which are late 20th century replacements, and that they're kind of malproportioned and strangely located. They're not really the framing. The attic has all been it was studded out and then gutted out at one point. So the framing around the two windows that are there is indicates that they're kind of not where they ought to have been. And they're, as I said, they're 30 or 40-year-old replacement windows.
but they're an indication of what was originally there, and which is what shouts 18th century to you as you drive by.
Right. Well, we can restudy that porch.
Call it a shed roof over the front door, which is, for instance, what we have on the Peter Berrien house on Old Georgetown Road.
Or even the little shed roof that was added to the bridge tender's house on the side door.
Yeah.
In which village?
That being Briggstown, right up the
Briggstown.
road. And that was actually based on a historic photo. That did not exist when we renovated it.
Okay.
But there was a historic photo showing it in that location.
Okay. We'll take a look at that.
I guess
it's the most memorable feature of the house. As I say, they shout 18th century.
Hi, it's Nancy. I just want to be reassured. I don't use the canoe on the canals, but the part that the north elevation that faces the canal with all those garage doors, is that lot 23 that is a vacant wooded lot completely obscure the back of the house from the canal?
When I first went to see Ed, I got there a bit early. I walked up the canal on the towpath on the opposite side of the canal, and it was almost impossible to see this house in the summertime. You can barely see the red barn, and lot 23 is largely wooded. Lot 22 is largely open once you get back 100 feet off the canal. So I tried really hard to find the house from the towpath, and it's if you have binoculars you can find it, and if at the winter time I'm sure it's easier to see, but still through quite a few trees.
And we would, and my understanding too is we would need to go through DNR Canal Commission, which would look at the DNR view shed as well.
Yeah, and I've dealt with them in the city of Lambertville, so we're familiar with their process too.
And they also reviewed the barn piece.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Nancy, since you called attention to this, it's interesting because I almost think that this is more successful at breaking down the massing, having this big pop-up dormer than on the front elevation. I'm not advocating for that, but and that's another thing to discuss is this giant dormer happening over here as well.
Where's the here?
That's trying to get some decent daylight into the exterior. So that's in a bedroom on the second floor. It's a 1.5 story house, and I think we're pretty good at keeping dormers off the front of the house for headroom.
Right.
But we do need one in the rear, and it looks out, not that you can see the canal, but looks out towards the canal. There's a lot of trees along the canal. So shed dormers are more in the vocabulary of these buildings than doghouse dormers or gable roof dormers. So we do prefer the sheds on this kind of a house. And since it can't be seen from the road at all, we thought it was a good thing to get some light into the interior.
So I guess I'm going to make one more comment, and this is just again me throwing out my thoughts on the design. But you know, you're basically you've put a shed roof addition, like a salt box addition, on this side, and formerly it's gabled, right?
Yes.
So I guess having that and the opposing salt box on the other side
Yes.
is a little troubling to me in terms of you know, really how the house would have evolved. I mean, and if they're gonna, if your historicist story is making it look like rambling additions, because that's what it would have been, right?
Right.
I actually almost think that this would have been another gable, and I think that might help balance it out as well.
That's the gable on the south side we like because it allows windows on the second floor. A gable on the north side garage, that would be fine as well. We could do that. I could go either way on that. It's the south side over the kitchen that that roof line enables us to have some utility to the second floor.
And I, you know, I say it because you know, I think the one thing that we're not talking about is the removals, and you removing whether it was 1960, 1920, 1930, 1910, or 1980. You know, it's now part of the fabric of what people associate with the historic character of the house. And you know, that within itself becomes part of the story of the house. So you know, you're removing a piece of the story and replacing it with a different story. So I'm you know, I just wanted to call attention to that as we're discussing it.
We always have the dilemma when we find something that we think is a mistake, whether to repeat the mistake and continue it, or whether to change it, and that's a very subjective decision. So.
Yep, I'm not arguing. I'm just calling attention to.
Yeah.
Here I am again. I was just curious about our ordinance, which I'm not going to pull up, but do we have any kind of language on skylights?
No, we don't have any language on skylights.
Okay.
We didn't show them in elevation, but in the floor plan we are showing some skylights in that in the kitchen addition to the south in that shed roof. I think they'll be largely invisible from the road unless you're sitting way up high in a high truck.
That would be here?
Yes, correct. They show on the floor plan.
So I don't know, something
there, yeah, and then to the left of that, correct.
So I think that when you ultimately come back, those kind of small pieces have to be included. We got to be able to, whether you're seeing it from a Mack truck or a Prius.
Right, I understand.
There's truth in drawings.
Yep.
Does anybody else have questions or commentary?
I have one element. There's a simplicity in the original building, and it's swamped, particularly with the complexity of the rear elevation and the addition on the front elevation. There's so many different geometries of windows, shapes of sheds, sizes of sheds. it all is really busy and overwhelms the simplicity of that main feature. And if you have some consideration when you go back to the drawing board, I would recommend you make the main house the shining feature in
I
some way and let everything else fall to the background.
I hear you, and we struggled with keeping the plane of the garage all in one plane, and then it just became this monstrous long thing. So we, not monstrous, but it became a bit longer. So we tried to break that, and there's always a tension between keeping things plain and they get large, and breaking things up when they get busy. And I hear you. I understand what you're driving at.
Yeah, and I think this similar comment about the front hyphen rings true on the rear, because we've now completely lost the corner board of the
Right.
historic house, and it becomes quite muddled.
So I'm hearing the mention of the rear. I thought, Chris, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, the rear wasn't something we needed to worry about, and that's where we could do things like these doghouse gables.
Well,
am I misunderstanding?
Well, I don't know what the jurisdiction of the board is, if they have a lot.
So the entire property is subject to review.
Okay.
And if you want to do wacky, out of control elements, you need to demonstrate through site sections that there's no visual impact to the Delaware and Raritan Canal. That's the best way I can explain it.
So that's separate or the same? So are you the Delaware and Raritan Canal?
The Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission is a state body that is charged with they're less concerned with the historic elements and more concerned with water quality and character of the canal. And we are a local jurisdiction who is certified local government, who is more concerned with the visual impact and character of the village that it is set in, and its visual appearance from any of the adjacent assets. So anything that is within 1,000 feet of the canal or within a historic district is under our purview on all sides.
So the short answer is you look at the back.
We look at the back.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Because of the canal in this specific instance, or you can always look at the back?
We can always look at the back.
Okay.
We're not Toll Brothers, right? We don't only put brick on the front of the house.
I understand. It's come up at other historic boards where that's fine. I just want to know how the rules work in your township.
Yep.
And the historic commission, Ed, is the canal commission it's almost a similar discussion with them about the historic impact. They may not be as detailed as you, but it's somewhat similar. When I did work in Lambertville, they care about what things look like.
Yeah, that's a correct characterization. They're going to get more into water quality issues and impervious coverage and other things of that nature than we ever will, but they will want to know about historic impact.
Yeah, and well, I'm just only familiar with working them in Lambertville, where they don't say anything about the water because the city says a lot about that. So.
I think that we've given quite a bit of feedback, and I think that what we impress upon is, we need additional detailed drawings. We need those sections. We need to understand a little bit better some of the ideas, and I think the massing needs to be evaluated in a way we've discussed.
So I just wanted to summarize some of the things I jotted down to make sure I didn't miss anyone's comments. So the 1/2-inch round gutters, I'm assuming 6-inch shutters on the front. I did want to have further clarification. Did folks think the shutters should just be on the original portion or throughout the quote amassing? What is your recommendation? I know it's just a recommendation.
I would actually leave that to your architect to propose what's most appropriate for the view of for his view of the project and your view of the project.
We'll look at that. Yeah.
Okay. And then the porch, basically no porch, but maybe an eyebrow kind of thing over it or something, but no porch. May I misunderstand that?
No, I think that that's a correct statement. I think that the porch that's been proposed is overbearing on the facade.
Okay. And then the center window, which kind of looks like 3 windows on the right for the comma, as you put it, Mr. Chairman, that one should be dropped down in some way.
The roof line. Yeah.
The roof line.
Yeah.
Okay.
To think of it more of a hyphen than a comma, right? A hyphen, we're connecting two similar things with a dissimilar thing.
Okay. One's higher, one's lower, but I get it. The driveway, we want to do a archaeological digging exercise on any of the disturbed lands, in addition to showing on a Google map an overlay. Is that
we look right, an overlay showing what that's going to be, and ultimately, if there's plantings and landscaping involved, whether it be low walls, retaining walls, or anything required to achieve that, we're going to need to be aware of that.
And it would be the driveway as well as the addition that would need the survey, the archaeological phase 1.
And it's just a phase 1, and phase 1 is a standard industry term.
Yeah. So anything that's being disturbed,
Okay.
site.
And then you had mentioned, Mr. Chairman, a series of building sections. I just want to make sure, Chris, you understand what that means?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay. And then Jessica, you had mentioned on the back portion, the dormers were problematic, but then the chairman mentioned maybe you need a dormer on the front. Can you give us a little bit more of a sense, because they're conflicting in some way?
I wasn't saying you need a dormer on the front. I was saying that the dormer helped to accentuate the different masses.
Okay.
But I think what Jessica, I'm not going to speak for you on what you're looking for.
Yeah, I'm reacting to the busyness and swallowing up of the main house, and all of the different types of window shapes applied
On
to
the
the
back or
home.
the front? On the back?
Really all elevations actually on the screen, but front and back. Front is problematic for sure. But the back is just the back is you lose the whole home. It's gone. It's swallowed. So I would just, that my comment was to
Simplify.
Yeah.
By removing windows?
Making them the same, less different, right? Less different. There's so many different window types although there's no window schedule, right?
Well, there's 4 window types, but I hear the busyness. Yeah.
I'm counting 6 on the front elevation alone, so I don't know what you're talking about. But and then I'm not going to count window types, but the front has 6. So yeah, it's just a lot going on.
And currently the house has probably more than that. So I understand what you're saying too. And I think one of the things Chris was looking to do was to simplify and line it up. So I just want to make sure we're taking the feedback and ultimately coming back with something that's meeting the historic needs as you've identified them. So Chris, are you
Yeah.
following that?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else that people brought up that was missed? Sorry, go ahead, Chairman.
No. Sorry, I was thinking out loud.
Oh, that's okay.
And I had made a note just to, if you could maintain the rubble foundation of the main home.
It's already been covered.
The photos in your write-up indicate there's rubble foundation.
There is. It's the stucco is peeling off in a place or two where it needs to be replaced and repointed. It's we'll examine the rubble foundation. It's a lovely thing. It's largely invisible from the exterior.
Rubble means stone, right?
Yeah.
Rubble is field stone.
Okay. I don't recall it anywhere in, but is that
Yes, somewhere there's a tiny
South.
bit exposed, but
That's the north
So in the
side.
front, if you zoom in,
Yeah.
the it's shown on the front of the home.
okay. No, it's a lovely thing. Everyone loves looking at the stone foundation.
And I don't want to completely upset your apple cart. I am going to just make an overarching comment that faux history doesn't need to be repeated, right? So, meaning that if you wanted to leave the historic body of the house to be one thing and your addition to be something else, that's a very acceptable approach to historic preservation.
I understand.
And there's a couple great examples of that have been developed right in Franklin. And there's one right in East Millstone where, there's a historic garage / warehouse on the front, and the back is a completely modern approach to an addition. So it's up to you and your aesthetic and the design approach. I'm just saying that there's, more than just repeating history to make a historic home appropriate.
I get that.
Were there any other comments or things people had that I somehow missed there?
I think Glenn had a comment about the roofing. I know it went off into scalloped rafters and supposed to scallop roof shingles, but just that was a comment. And if you are rebuilding chimneys, how are they being rebuilt? Are they going to be replicate what's there, and things of that nature?
And there's a word, just a caution when you're rebuilding chimneys as well, using the mortar for something that would have been a lime base and going to something cemented. You really need the right mason for something like that. That's just a word of caution. I mean,
Yeah, no,
not for us to opine on, but
I've worked with historic masons and lime. I understand all that. Yeah.
right. And then are we removing any and the only other little thing, and it's hit or miss, I'd say put it on if you're doing air conditioners, condensers, generators, where they're going to sit around the house too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100% good point, Glenn. So those things are site plan considerations that really need to be looked at.
All the bathrooms on the front of the house too, all the vent pipes coming through the roof.
The VTRs and
There should not be any penetrations. That was one of the things we went over with the design. I don't like them. You'll notice on the barn there aren't any for that very reason. I went through painstaking plumbing to vent in the back and almost got in a fight over it with a plumber over it.
So I think we provided quite a bit of feedback. I know you have a lot to digest, and I know you're going to want to come back. And like I tell everybody else, if you have questions in advance that you want more clarity on, you could submit them in advance through Vince, and we'll try and answer the best we can, so that you're not continually spinning your wheels. We like doing this, but we don't like to see you 4 or 5 times. We want to get you out of here.
We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
So anything else before we wrap up? Anything from the commission? A lot of silent people tonight. Must be watching a Yankee game.
It's the Red Sox game.
Nope, I'm good.
I can't believe you just said that, Vince. All right. So again, all right. Thank you for coming in and your presentation. I know you got a little bit of work to do, but there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
you're I'm not going to soapbox, but you're embarking on a challenge with, a house that's perceived to be one of the most history rich in the town, and you're trying to add to it. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm just going to go back, give 27 Union one last chance. Vince, was 27 Union, was that the one that was an emergent matter that never submitted an emergent?
I think that's who are, is that the one that
There, Vince?
I don't remember?
Okay.
I'll find out tomorrow when I contact them and say what happened because they told me he was coming.
I think it was a roof replacement that happened, and
Oh, the one that already happened. Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I just spoke yesterday to him and he said he was coming, so it might just maybe something happened.
Yeah, Vince, your audio is atrocious.
Really?
All right. Any public discussion? Anybody here that want to talk to us? Doesn't look like it. Bob, anything from open space?
No, we had a meeting. We just went over deer and burning of evasive and how it was cut. So nothing really as far as open space that would involve the historic commission.
Okay. So unfinished business, I want to talk about goals. We've been talking, I brought it up in the last few meetings. I think we've established through conversation a few good goals. Jessica has started doing research on revising our application process and a checklist. And she sent through to me and Vince a few examples. I didn't get to look at it all in great detail, but there's some great information there. I think there are things that we could learn from. So a goal that we're going to carry forward to next year is to revamp that process and create that checklist. I think that's going to be really helpful. And then the other goal that I wanted to set is we are going to look at matching grant opportunities. I preliminarily talked to Vince, who talked to Bob Vornlocker, and we're going to look for a budget of as much money as we could get. But I'm going to put in a request for $14,000 in the hopes that we can get a matching grant from Historic Trust or CLG grant, so that we can apply that grant in a matching manner to develop design guidelines, or at least the basis of design guidelines. So we're gonna work on that. So if it's the way it works for the state, if we could get 14 grand, they might give us 14 grand, and all of a sudden we have 28 grand, which would be enough to do this. I spoke with a counterpart of mine in Cranberry, and they spent 24,000 on getting similar documents put together through a consultant. So I didn't give us much fluff room there, but I don't want to over ask. So we're going to try, we're going to see what we could do. And then the third goal, which really shouldn't be a goal, but it is a goal, is I know we are all delinquent on our CLG continuing education requirement. Probably not Jess and I, because we have to do it for our licenses, but we're all required to do some kind of continuing education. So I'm going to reach out to Andrea Tingy and try and find some web-based education that we could all do to make sure that we're meeting that requirement. So
Yeah, that's a good idea since we really kind of can't meet publicly, you know, in some areas.
Yeah, and you know, we've relied heavily on the New Jersey Preservation Conference to meet that requirement. We would a group of us would go annually when they would have that. They haven't had it in a couple of years because of obvious reasons. So we need to find another vehicle for meeting that requirement. So hopefully I'll have more on that soon.
Andrew, can you find out if people, if they've been on for a while, are grandfathered?
No, it's a requirement now that we're all CLG.
Okay.
So everybody has to do it, Grandpa.
That's about it. I'll be 69 on the 20th.
So that's what I had for unfinished / new business. Does anybody else have anything to add in that arena, or questions or comments on what I just rattled off? I know we all want to wrap this up. I will be soliciting before the next meeting, definitely before the next meeting if there's not one in November. I want a subcommittee of 4 members to head up these initiatives. They don't have to be the same 4 people to do all the initiatives, but we do need to get a maximum of 4 people together so we don't constitute a quorum to work on these, because obviously we don't have time in our regularly scheduled meetings to work on a lot of the stuff that we're proposing. So I'm going to ask that if you can give time, give time. You know, things don't get done if we don't do them. So I'll be emailing everybody and reminding you that you need to help. The next agenda item, we've already done public discussion. Upcoming meeting, we've talked about November not being scheduled. As of now, we're not going to have a November meeting unless something comes up and we have to fit it in. But we will use that time for the subcommittee meetings that we formed for the 2 applications, and hopefully for a subcommittee meeting for the things I just said I'm going to form a subcommittee for. And with that, I'm just going to remind everybody that we are very fastly coming up to the end of the year. In December is usually when we start talking about next year's officers, next year's calendar, and all those kind of good things so that we can vote and ratify in November. I'm sorry, in January. So just think about those things. If you want to up your game and be the next chair, you're welcome to do it. And that's all I had. That's it. Anybody else? Anything?
No, I'll make a motion to say goodnight.